Have you ever left home for a single afternoon only to return and find part of your property missing? That's exactly what happened to me. My name is Daniel, and I own a small cattle ranch on the edge of a growing subdivision. My family has lived on this land for nearly 30 years, long before the neighborhood and its HOA ever existed. The wooden fence surrounding my pasture wasn't just for looks. It marked the legal property line, kept my cattle safe, and had been professionally surveyed years earlier. So imagine my shock when I pulled into my driveway one Friday evening and saw a wide opening where my fence had always stood. More than 300 feet of fencing had disappeared. At first, I thought a storm had knocked it down. But as I got closer, I noticed a fence post had been cleanly pulled from the ground. Fresh tire tracks covered the grass. This wasn't weather. Someone had intentionally removed my fence. Then I saw the workers. They were loading the last of the fence panels onto a flatbed trailer while an HOA board member stood nearby with her arms crossed. I walked straight over. "What are you doing on my property?" I asked. She didn't even hesitate. "We're correcting a boundary issue," she replied confidently. "This fence was built in the wrong place." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Who told you that?" "Our HOA hired someone." I asked for a survey. She couldn't produce one. I asked for permission. She didn't have that either. Instead, she handed me a copy of a neighborhood landscaping plan that didn't even include my ranch. Then came the sentence that made everything clear. The HOA voted on it. I laughed. "You don't vote on someone else's property." She rolled her eyes and told the workers to keep loading my fence. I didn't argue. Instead, I quietly took photos of everything. Every missing post, every truck, every license plate, every worker. Then I called the county sheriff's office to document the incident. The deputy arrived within an hour. After looking at my property records and the survey markers still visible in the ground, he shook his head. "This looks like a civil matter," he said, "but I definitely keep every piece of evidence." That's exactly what I intended to do. The following Monday, I visited the county property records office. The clerk pulled up decades of surveys. Every single one matched my deed. My fence had been exactly where it belonged. Then something interesting happened. The county employee noticed a permit filed by the HOA just 2 weeks earlier. It requested approval to widen a public walking trail. There was one problem. The proposed trail crossed private property. Mine. The permit had never been approved. In fact, it had been officially denied. That's when I contacted the county planning department. Within days, inspectors arrived at the neighborhood. They measured property lines, checked permit files, interviewed contractors, and reviewed surveillance footage from nearby homes. The investigation moved much faster than I expected. One inspector called me a week later. "Mr. Carter," he said, "we've confirmed multiple violations." Apparently, the HOA had hired a landscaping contractor and instructed them to remove my fence without verifying ownership. The contractor assumed everything had been properly approved. It hadn't. The county also discovered something else. While removing my fence, heavy equipment had damaged a protected drainage easement that belonged to the county. That mistake changed everything. Now the investigation wasn't just about my fence. It involved an authorized construction inside a protected public easement. County engineers arrived. Environmental officials followed. Then legal investigators joined the case. Suddenly, the HOA board wasn't smiling anymore. The county issued a stop work order covering the entire trail project. Contractors packed up their equipment. The unfinished walking path sat abandoned. Weeks later, I attended the county hearing. The evidence spoke for itself. Survey maps, permit records, inspection reports, photographs, video footage. Even the contractor admitted he had asked whether permission from the neighboring landowner had been obtained. According to his testimony, the HOA president answered, "Don't worry about it." That single sentence echoed through the hearing room. The county ruled that the HOA had violated multiple local regulations, entered private property without authorization, and ignored the permit denial. They were ordered to restore my property exactly as it had been. A professional fencing company installed an entirely new fence at the HOA's expense. The damaged drainage easement was repaired under county supervision. The HOA also had to cover inspection costs, restoration expenses, and legal fees. Months later, I stood beside my rebuilt fence watching my cattle graze peacefully once again. One of the county inspectors happened to stop by during a final inspection. He smiled and looked across the pasture. "You know," he said, "all of this could have been avoided if someone had simply respected the property line." I smiled back, or asked permission. He laughed. "That would have worked too." Today, the fence stands stronger than ever. The walking trail ends exactly where my property begins. And every new HOA board member now receives a copy of the county's investigation report before taking office. Because sometimes, the biggest mistake isn't removing a fence. It's believing no one will notice.